Hi there, Hamish Conway here, and welcome to TACOS Tuesday, the place for the best Amazon ads, tactics, and strategies. And with me again today is Sebastian Hargraves, Head of Advertising at Sell Global. Welcome, Seb.
Thank you, and I got a fresh haircut just for the podcast, so you can
Very smart.
leave me a comment if I should keep it or not.
Oh dear, it's getting a little bit grayer though. That's the only thing, Seb.
That's true. When I got it cut, I just saw chunks of grey falling down.
Oh dear me. Anyway, so look, this week we've got something, we're getting a bit more technical. Okay, last week was a little bit high level. This week, something is that we're going to cover is very specific. And the topic today is how to control ACOS by measuring revenue per click. And so revenue per click is this measurement that we use internally to help us make the right decisions when it comes to bids and helping accounts grow in the right direction. So this is going to be a bit more technical. There are some slides here that we're going to share. If you're just listening to this, you can go to the website as well, and you can then download these slides. Actually, as we talk about revenue per click, and this, if you haven't listened to some of the other episodes, I'd go back to episode 43, where we talk about setting objectives for Amazon ads. And in there, we cover off kind of a flow where you need to be thinking about what your objectives are for each product and then each campaign. And then this ties into what we're going to cover today falls kind of beneath the setting the right objective. So make sure you go back and check that out. And also another out of interest one would be episode 47, where we look at Australia sponsored products, and you will see there the click costs that are there. But anyway, that's something there to go back and have a look at. But also coming up just before we get underway on September the 2nd in Sydney, there's the Amazon Seller Summit, and we're going to be exhibiting. And also last week, Amazon Ads asked us to do a presentation. So we've been quickly putting a presentation together, and that's going to be, Seb will be doing that presentation at the event. So if you are going to be there, make sure you get to that event, and I think you'll find it fantastic. We've got only 25 minutes, but I guess Seb, doing all these podcasts, which are about 25 minutes there, should be well practiced. Yep. But so we're going to be sharing some really interesting stats there, and in terms of looking behind the scenes, because there's some things we can talk about that Amazon can't. So we've, actually, as this comes out, and saying this here, our presentation has to go through Amazon Legal, which will be fun. So we'll see how that goes getting through. Anyway, so we look forward to, if you're in Sydney or not in Sydney, make your way there for Tuesday, the 2nd of September. And then also we've got our Amazon vendor events coming up in September as well. And I need to look at my calendar here. The 17th in Sydney, Wednesday the 17th, and the Thursday the 18th in Melbourne as well. So check out the website on those. All right, enough of that. Let's get amongst it. So Seb, should I, just as I start to share, do you want to kind of kick things off? Like, what is this revenue per click measurement, and why do we want to pay attention to it?
Yeah, I mean, so revenue per click is kind of exactly how it sounds. It's the amount of revenue that you make for every click that you drive with advertising. So it's an advertising metric. We're not talking about organic sales or anything like that. We're just talking about the advertising side, because that's the part that we control. And the reason that you want to pay attention to it is because you want to get more revenue in the door for every click. So the reason we use it is because we're a profit first or a profit driven agency. And so this is the best way to drive profit and scale profitably.
Yeah, great. All right, I'm going to pull up this here. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a bit of text here. But Seb, most people are just listening, so let's talk through this calculation.
Cool. So yeah, revenue per click has got two parts to it. It's got the sales part and the clicks part. Each of those are correlated to is something that we can control, and so the area we want to control is how much it costs us per click to achieve a sale. And as Hamish mentioned at the start there, if you go back to the objective episode, you'll figure out how to set those objectives the right way. This episode will help you build on that episode. Then start actually calculating what your bids need to be based on that cost per click. So that's kind of the high level part of it. So the parts that we want to control, the cost per click is the main lever for us, but also how much revenue we bring in the door. So the reason we look at it this way, or one of the other reasons we look at it this way, is that when you're bidding in Amazon, obviously you're bidding on a bunch of different keywords. They all have different conversion rates, and the revenue per click model has conversion rate built into the formula. And you'll see on the next slide when we get to it, we'll show you all the different ways that you can calculate the revenue per click. But because it has conversion rate built into it, it means that every single keyword will have a different bid. So instead of setting these blanket like $2 bids across everything, which is really, really inaccurate, you can get really precise and have real good precision on your keywords. You might be able to afford a very, very high bid on something that's very relevant to your term that you can compete on, but a really generic term might be much harder for you to compete on. And so you want to have different bids based on the intent behind those keywords.
Okay. All right. So we're really, so this is trying to drive efficiency in the bids. And so look, in some cases, you're just not going to be able to compete. So if you do lower your bid, you're going to be maybe getting less traffic. So it might take you longer to make the same amount of sales. That's kind of one of the impacts, but that's often what you would need to do in many cases if profitability was the key objective that you had.
Yeah, and I mean, unless, again, if you could go back to that episode, unless like there's not many reasons why you would want to drive unprofitable sales. And so, there is a handful of reasons why you would, but there's not the stacks of them. So so absolutely. The three key areas that we use revenue per click for is for profitability, like I've kind of mentioned, because it aligns with your profitability with your sales targets compared to just increasing or decreasing by a random amount. So, we do see brands come in and they'll be like, you'll look at your search terms and your search term report or something like that, and you'll be like, hey, my ACOS is high. I need to drop my bids. And then the next question becomes, well, how much do I drop my bids by? And most people will be like, oh, I'll just drop them by 10%. In some cases, when you have a high ACOS, actually dropping the bid is not the right thing to do. Increasing the bid is actually a better thing to do. And then this is where it starts to get more complicated when we start to bring in placements and placement modifiers. But this is why when someone's just looking at the search term report and looking at high ACOS and making decisions, like arbitrary decisions with no fundamentals behind it, you can make the wrong decision and hurt your account even more.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because the natural reaction is to pull back, but actually then that just creates a downward spiral. Okay. So is there anything else on this slide here that you want to cover off?
So the other two were ranking. Yeah. So revenue per click is tied to the ACOS. So we are talking about controlling your bids with your ACOS. And so some people will say around ranking, like, I don't care about ACOS when I'm doing a ranking campaign. But realistically, people do have a limit on what they're willing to pay rank, right? They're not going to just say, hey, you can spend whatever you want, or you won't be saying, I can spend whatever I want to get rank. There'll still be some limitations on what you're willing to pay. And so even with ranking, you'll still want to have a revenue per click and a target ACOS kind of objective around those.
Yeah. So really, it's because it's a key metric for how well things are going.
You still require, even with ranking, you require sales to get ranked. So it still has to be part of it. And then the other area that it helps with is controlling your investment level. So if let's say you're hitting all of your targets, but your spend is running a bit aggressive and you're going to spend all of your allocated budget before the end of the month, you can use the revenue per click model by reducing your target ACOS, right? And that will help you control your budget so that you're like, okay, well, I'm hitting my objectives. I am going to lower my target ACOS to help bring my ad spend back, but without affecting my sales kind of too much, right? And so that's kind of a way of using it as well.
Okay. All right. So so this is hopefully this is starting to make sense for people. So we're talking about ACOS equaling cost per click divided by revenue per click, and we're going to get into some more ways that can be calculated.
Yep, cool. Right. So on this second slide that you'll see, there's a few different ways that you can calculate revenue per click, and the idea really is just to show you how much it covers here. So for those that can't see, revenue per click can be, so the way it can be calculated is your average order value times your conversion rate. So it's got price included in the equation.
Mm-hmm.
It's also got conversion rate included in the equation. You can also do sales divided by orders times orders divided by clicks, which is basically the exact same as average order value times conversion rate. But you can see there that it's got sales, it's got orders, it's got clicks as well in there. And then the last one, to kind of give you an idea, a simple overview, is just sales divided by clicks, which encapsulates all of those metrics in there.
And to be clear, this is just with the advertising sales and advertising orders that we're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah, and why that's important is because you want something that's dynamic, because you want something that updates as new information becomes available, right? Like you got new data in that tells you a different story. You now want to adjust your bids based on that new data. So, for example, if you increased your price, well, your bids will need to change as a result. If your conversion rate dropped or increased, well, you want to recalculate your bids now because your conversion rate's different than what it was previously, right? Let's say you sell pool equipment and you're coming into summer.
Yeah.
Your conversion rate during summer and the volume and everything is going to be vastly different than selling in winter where no one's really buying pool equipment. So you need a way to calculate your bids that's dynamic based on the seasons that you move through and the different products and the pricings that you have and change.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. For a lot of companies are quite seasonal, and or even just heading into quarter four, people that is a season, you could say, for many brands.
Yeah.
And if you just stick with what you've got, you're kind of leaving money on the table rather than being dynamic about it. And this is, as you're noticing conversion rate go up, that would allow you to actually have a higher, as a result of conversion rate going up, your revenue per click would be going up, and then you would have the ability to spend more on a click if you wanted to, or if your average order value is going up, you might have put your price up, but it didn't impact conversion rate. We've done lots of tests like that. You put your price up and nothing changes from conversion rate. Awesome. Now you can actually afford to spend more on each bid. So,
and it's all dynamic, easily to recalculate, not something that you have to get complicated about.
Yeah. And so the example, do you want to run through the example here, just so that makes sense for people?
Yeah, so I'll run through the example. Obviously, it's a little bit hard for people that are not looking at the screen, but basically, let's say you had a target ACOS of 10%. This is how that would kind of play out. Let's say you had a keyword, it had $20 in ad spend, and its sales were $100. That means you've got an ACOS of 20%. Now your target's 10%, so you're 10% above what you want. Let's say you had 10 clicks and your cost per click was $2 on this keyword. If you were to run that calculation, the target bid, which is your sales divided by your clicks, so $100, which is the sales, divided by the clicks, which was 10, and then you times that by your target ACOS, which is the 10%, right? You're at 20% ACOS, you wanted to be at 10. Your bid needs to be $1. So basically it needs to be half what it is because your cost per click was $2. It needs to come down to $1. And so now, instead of just saying to yourself, oh, my ACOS is at 20%, I want it to be lower, I'm just going to lower my bid by 20%. Well, that's actually not that bid. So if you lowered it by 20%, you might be putting that at what, $1.60. That's not going to be the right amount. Your ACOS will still remain too high from your objective, and you'll take too long to make the adjustments to bring your bid to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Whereas, once you have enough data, you then have the confidence to make the decision to recalculate the bid and make it correct.
Okay.
Hopefully that made sense. As a little bit of stuff to
Well,
look,
let's make this actionable, right? People listening, there'll be some. This is way over their heads. I mean, look, to be honest, this is as we were going through it before, I'm like, okay, I was asking so many questions, to understand it myself. So I know this is potentially a bit more technical for others. So let's have a look at just some of the common issues and then just some action items that people can take from what we've been covering.
Yeah. Right. So some important factors when you're doing this calculation is that there is a whole conversation around placements that needs to happen. Now, we're not going to go into that today because it's a whole episode in and of itself. But just understand there's 3 placements: top of search, rest of search, and product pages. And that bid or that data you're looking at is a summary of those 3 placements, meaning one of them could be really good and the other 2 of them could be really poor. And so when you're doing these calculations, placements is an important part of the calculation.
Yeah.
So I was
just going to say, and that was what I was referring to before, episode 47. If you go and have a quick look at that, even on YouTube, because we show the different ad placement click costs for sponsored products in Australia over the first 6 months. And I think you'll be quite surprised as to the difference between top of the search, rest of search, and product placement. So do have a look at that to help understand what Seb was saying there, because those, again, your placement is such a key factor in what you've got to pay from a bid point of view.
Yeah, and have a look specifically at the cost per click and the conversion column. At those 2 columns in there, you'll see that the conversion is much stronger at top of search, but also the cost per click is. So then to have this revenue per click model work, the conversion rate kind of has to outstrip the cost that it takes to get there. Cool.
What
so
else?
the second mistake that we see people using this model is that they don't set realistic targets. So let's say they have a product, they think it's amazing, but the market is telling them something different. They may set targets that and they're like, look, I just want to spend 5, I want to target ACOS of 5%, or I want to target ACOS of 1%. I want to spend very little on advertising, just enough to, generate results. What typically will happen then is, if you've been running ads and you set that kind of target, and let's say historically you've had a 30% ACOS and you try and set it to like 5, you will just lose all visibility and all sales because you're recalculating your bid to something that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So that's one piece there. And then the second one is that if let's say you're not running ads, you haven't been running ads, but you're calculating it for the first time, you want to set your bids up that's something competitive to begin with to collect data, and then you can make calculations after that. Not setting it too low at the beginning and taking, like Hamish was saying before, months and months and months to collect data, and such a low amount of data, you can't really make any decisions with it.
Yeah, it's going to be too slow. So what are some actions here that people can take?
So go ahead and calculate your revenue per click. See if it's been increasing or decreasing. Some things that you can do if it's been decreasing. So understand, like I've shown you guys, what the revenue per click, what's made up of the revenue per click. So you can then kind of start to break that down in problem solving, right? So part of the formula is conversion rate. So if you see that your bids have maintained, let's say your CPC has stayed the same and your revenue per click has declined, it's on the conversion part of the equation. It's a conversion problem. Conversely, so that's and conversion, you're going to be wanting to look at price, review ratings, review count, competitor offerings, etc. If your revenue per click is stable, but and your sales are being decreasing, then it's likely that the auctions become more competitive and you haven't adjusted your bids to keep up. So your revenue per click is staying stable, but your sales are kind of stagnant because you're not regularly kind of visiting it. So recalculate this, and I mean, this is what we do, right? You got to redo this and recalculate, and things change very, very dynamically and very, very often.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep recalculating bids. The last thing is, if things are going well and you're using the revenue per click model, you'll find that your spend continues to increase because you are basically continuing to recalculate your bids to the maximum that you can afford based on your target. Now, eventually they'll hit a ceiling where it's like you've hit the ceiling on how much revenue you can generate because your conversion rate's not getting any better or whatever. But this will give you a really good way of hitting that ceiling and knowing where it is, because you'll just naturally incrementally grow your sales to that ceiling, so to speak.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So I think that's some good takeaways there for people to go and have a look at. And again, here's the revenue per click calculation. Revenue per click equals average order value times conversion rate. So if you can, or another way of looking at it is the very basic way is revenue per click equals your sales, ad sales, over the number of clicks. And so you can go into your console and get that. And otherwise, you can also look at revenue per click equals sales over orders. So you look at all your sales divided by the orders, which is your average order value. Orders divided by clicks is your conversion rate. So that's what you want to be going and calculating there, and even go back over the last 3 months, for example, and just see what trends you can notice there. So, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the share there, and so hopefully, I know it's something a little bit more technical, and we'll kind of mix things up with what we do on TACOS Tuesday. And for those people listening that are more technically wanting to get into the nitty gritty of things, and this is a great episode for that. Even if you're not one of those people, at least you can kind of understand a bit more. And every episode you listen to is just adding to your knowledge and helping you, whether you're working with someone, like I know we've got a bunch of our clients listen to this as well, and that can just help you work better with us, or help explain things internally better as well. So hope you found that useful. So thanks again, Seb, for sharing your knowledge there. And as always, if you are looking at your Amazon advertising and going, are we doing a good job here or not, we can do a free Amazon ads audit for you. So connect with us at gosellglobal.com. and we can tee up time for you to have a chat with Seb about your Amazon ads performance. So thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Seb.